It's one of the things I've struggled with my whole life that I'm starting to get sorted out and organized is list making. Lists for tasks, to-dos, reminders, meal plan, grocery lists, all that kind of stuff. But if you look through my phone notes app, I have so many notes that are brainstorms and ideas and all these like random things that I just have to get out of my head so I remember, but then I never end up going back into the notes app to reread it. So a lot of stuff is like old and outdated and forgotten. So I've actually started thinking like, how can I get all of these different things organized that at some point I might want to go check and reference, but I don't necessarily want to be taking up all this space on my notes app and not be able to find anything. So this is one of those things that it's a let's see how it goes. Because like I've said before, I always have great intentions of starting something or organizing something, and then, I forget or I get out of the routine of doing something, and a million unfinished tasks in my life. So here in front of me is a really good example of all the things that I try to keep track of throughout my days. I have a bullet journal. It's just a basic one from, honestly, the dollar store that has a couple pages of art type things that I wanted to start. Guess what? I started them and I didn't keep going. So mostly unfinished pages. I have my weekly planner. It's very small and I like it because it gives you the month view and then it breaks down the week. It's not big. I can throw this in any of my bags and take it with me wherever I need to go. And usually what I do is just write my appointments in here, things that I know I need to do on a specific day. This list, one of those like magnetic list things, today's plan, guess what? This is too many things for my day. I'm not gonna do this many things every day. So I kind of broke it into, you can see 3 sections. And this is where I've started putting my 3 priorities for the day. It's still a lot. It's still a lot of lists. And then, I've got this clipboard with papers and calendar templates, and it just gets to be a lot. So I thought I'd take you on this little journey of mine to try to get my lists organized and consolidated into one place that is a lot easier to keep track of and reference, instead of saying, oh, well, I'm just gonna grab this thing because it's the closest thing to me, whether it's my phone or the list or a little sticky note. Like, all these things create chaos. In my head and in the moment, it makes sense. But then later when I'm trying to find something or trying to remember something and I don't know where I put it or where I wrote it down. So I had this idea this morning, and it actually involves this bullet journal. When I bought it, I've always really admired people who use bullet journals for creative things. So a couple things that I had started that I got ideas from other creators on YouTube was a calendar, a year calendar, which I already have year calendars. But the idea of making my own, so silly. I wanted to do a doodle calendar, which for each month I would draw a grid and every day doodle something that I wanted to remember, whether it was just like a little moment. I think I called it, one memory or moment each day. It doesn't have to be fancy or anything, just like a little doodle. But as you can see, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days out of a lot of days. So unfinished ideas. I had written down dreams so I could journal my dreams. I guess I haven't had dreams, but that's a lie. I've had a lot of dreams. I just don't remember to write them down. Meditations. I like to meditate, and then if like a word or a phrase or an idea comes to me, I like to remember it. So I was going to write down those. Haven't done that, but I probably have meditations written down in my notes app on my phone. So then after that, I didn't really do anything in the journal. So I thought what I would do is use this as a tool to create lists that I like to make that, you know, I have them in one spot I can flip through and reference. And I decided I didn't want this to be like to-do lists that I have to go back and check off. I have that, but this is more for keeping track of reference things. Like the other day I was on my computer, I got an email from a local hiking organization that had lists of like the top 10 places to hike throughout the state. So I found myself opening up a new document to type out all these places to have a list of places to hike, but that's a whole separate document that I then probably won't even open up again. So I said, okay, what if a spread or two of this book is when someone tells me a place they recommend, or I see a place on a Facebook group or on an email that's recommended for a hike or a day trip, like a park or something like that. Kind of like places to go, like, oh, the places you'll go. Maybe I'll call it, oh, the places you'll go. And it can be like outside places around the state or New England that I can go with my family or on my own, just places I'd like to go and visit and hike or just explore. So that's one thing that I plan to do in here, and I will follow up and hold myself accountable for that. Another list that I wanted to make was books that I want to read. Now, I do have the Goodreads app, but I like to use that more for books that I'm currently reading and have finished. I know that you can select books that you want to read and it keeps track of those in there, but I just really don't use the app for that. It's more for tracking my progress for books that I've currently or already read. So I figured I could do another spread for books that I want to read. And I know it all sounds like I'm making more work for myself, but in my head it makes sense to have this place where I can go and say, oh, what was that book that so-and-so had recommended to me in my DMs or while we were talking, and I wrote it down. Like, this is where I'm gonna write it down, instead of having all these different places that I, text myself an idea, right? It's an ongoing list. It doesn't expire, and I can keep going back to it and adding stuff as I go. And I think what I'll do for now is give myself 2 spreads. So a spread is when you're holding the book open. A spread is both pages, left and right. So I'll give myself 2 spreads for my places to explore and my books I want to read, just so I have room in case I know I'll run out of lines at some point and want to continue the list. So another list that I thought of that I want to keep track of off the top of my head that I'm going to need more room for, not just a piece of paper torn out of a notebook or a sticky note or something from a tear-off pad, but something that can be a continuation, is really just creative ideas. Whether it's an idea for a craft that I want to try, something I want to paint, some words or phrases or lyrics that I hear that inspire me that I want to remember for a future project. Just kind of an ongoing list that I can always go back to and check out if I'm feeling low on inspiration, or just to kind of remind myself, like, this is something that popped into your head at some point and maybe you don't have time for it right now, but at some future date it might, be a spark again. I might divide this book in half and say the whole back half is that creative idea list, because it's just going to be ongoing. Like this, the whole idea of this is ongoing lists, not to-do lists that you need to check off and then cross off and be done with, but ongoing lists of things that I'll keep coming back to, and having it all in one place, not one paper over here, a sticky note over here, a document on my Google Drive, a note on my phone app. Having everything in one place. I mean, the idea of that is really interesting, right? It's really exciting. And that's, this dedicated journal. I can doodle around it and play with the titles of these lists, and that'll kind of fulfill the whole bullet journal desire to make it cute. I really think, people who can do a good job with bullet journals, I don't know if bullet journals are for people with ADHD, the way that most people use a bullet journal and do all these elaborate designs and, I don't know, maybe hyper-focusing on a spread on any given day is a nice thing to do. But I think for me, when it comes to having to do things daily, that's not my forte. It's not one of my strengths. Like for instance, recently I did a month-long Instagram challenge. I did it every day. I'd never done that before. I've started them so many times and I get a week or a week and a half in and I skip a day and then I just give up. I don't try to catch up because I'm like, well, the month's gonna be over soon. Nobody cares. So the whole like, oh, I'm gonna do this every day for a month or a year or whatever, doesn't really work for me. So while I had really good intentions buying this to use it as like a creative design tool to play in, I think it's gonna be a good organizational reference tool for myself. So I would love to know, if you use a bullet journal, what do you use it for? Do you have like a specific goal in mind? Do you use it as a tool or is it just for fun? I would love to know, and let me know if you have any videos or pictures of things that you've done in your bullet journals. I always like seeing ideas. I like, at the very least, seeing other people's creativity and how it comes into the world. I'm gonna hold myself accountable and come back and do another video, maybe in a week or so, or maybe in a month, to show you what I've done in this journal. I have set my intention of how I want to use it. Yeah, we'll check in and I'll show you the lists that I've made and if any other ideas have come to my mind. I think at the very least, it's fun to see what other people are doing with these things. And sometimes just sharing ideas helps spark something else. So I might watch this back while I'm editing and come up with a couple other ideas of things that I want to include in here. Thank you for watching. I'm Shannon. I am an artist. I paint. I am a full-time work at home mom. I have 2 young kiddos, one of whom is in school full-time. The other is going to school next fall, and I am going to have time to do my work uninterrupted. I can't even think about that right now, but I'm so grateful for you being here and watching. I love sharing my journey, not just as an artist, but as a working mom, a woman who was recently diagnosed with ADHD and figuring out how this brain of mine works. And I really just appreciate you being here. And I would love to know in the comments if there was anything in here that was interesting, a little thought nugget that maybe stuck with you, or if you have your own ideas you'd like to share, I would love to hear them. So don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the like button. It lets me know that people are watching and that this is, interesting things that people want to be hearing from me. And let's see how this goes, right? Let's check back in. All right. Have a great day.